Everyone has a chin. It just sits there, as if it is the most natural thing in the world. If you ask someone to draw a human face right now, they'd probably start with a circle and then taper it to a point at the bottom. That pointed part is the chin. It looks so natural that we've never really thought it was strange. But think about it carefully. What is the chin actually for? We use our teeth to eat, our nose to breathe, and our mouth and vocal cords to talk. The chin doesn't seem to be an irreplaceable part, not like the eyes, which we can't live without. So here is the question. If humans had to evolve all over again from scratch, would the chin still appear right about now? You probably have a few answers brewing in your head. After all, we tend to assume that every part of the body grew this way for a reason. Maybe the chin helps us chew food better, or maybe it is there to help us speak more clearly, or perhaps it makes the face look more powerful, something that could intimidate opponents back in prehistoric times. Sounds pretty plausible, right? But scientists have been researching this for over a century and have never reached a single unified explanation. Even more surprisingly, some of the newer explanations are pointing in a completely different direction. What if, and I mean seriously, what if the chin doesn't exist for a specific function at all? Today we're going to talk about this strange part of our face. Why did the human face become the way it is today? Is it possible that the chin is merely a byproduct of the changes our faces underwent? Everyone assumes the chin must be useful, but after more than 100 years of research, a growing number of scientists are starting to suspect something else. It might actually be useless. It might just be a structural relic accidentally left behind when the human face was squeezed and reshaped. Evolution doesn't pursue perfection. It is constantly making compromises and adjustments. The chin might be the most obvious evidence of this imperfection. If the body wasn't meticulously designed, then why does it look so reasonable? To figure this out, we first need to be clear on what the chin actually is. It is not an independent bone. It is the forward projecting area at the very front of our lower jawbone. Take a finger and feel the tip of your chin right now. That small area, here is where it gets interesting. The vast majority of mammals in the natural world don't have this thing. Think about cats, dogs, cows, and sheep. The area around their mouths is all set back, even chimpanzees. Our closest living relatives have jaws that are almost flat. Only we humans possess this unique and distinct contour. So the question arises, why do we have it when no other animal does? The reason we get so hung up on this question is that humans are hardwired to search for purpose. We look at a body structure and we automatically assume it serves an important function. It is like seeing a part under the hood of a car. You definitely assume it is there for a crucial reason. That is our powerful intuition at work, but intuition can sometimes lead us down the wrong path. Some things in our bodies might genuinely just be a coincidence. It is just really hard for us to accept the idea of uselessness. Here we need to introduce a crucial insight. Natural selection is not an engineer. It has no blueprint and no ultimate goal. It doesn't design everything in advance and then construct it according to a plan. Its method is much simpler. If a variation helps an individual survive more easily, that variation gets kept. That is it. And so, our bodies are not an optimal solution built from the ground up. They are a patchwork of countless, it kept me alive solutions. The chin, in all likelihood, is part of this patchwork. Let's look at the evolutionary history of the human face. The changes are staggering. Millions of years ago, our ancient human ancestors had faces that jutted far forward, somewhat like modern apes. Think of the Neanderthals with their robust, protruding faces. Now look at us with our refined features and softer lines. Over these long hundreds of thousands of years, the need to chew has decreased dramatically. The powerful force once used to tear raw meat and grind down tough fibers was no longer required. As a result, the entire facial skeleton began to shrink inward, like a balloon slowly deflating. But as evolution progressed, the modern human face became flatter and flatter, more and more retracted. And here is where an anomaly appears. By all logic, if the face was becoming flatter overall, the chin should have retracted along with it. But it didn't. Not only did it not shrink back, it independently and stubbornly jutted out. It is as if the whole face was running backward. But the chin just stood its ground. Why did the face get smaller while the chin became more prominent? This is where the truly crucial point begins to surface. The chin was very likely not a new structure deliberately added by evolution. It wasn't invented like a new organ for some special task. It is simply a geometric consequence of the entire facial skeleton shortening and reorganizing. Imagine an originally protruding structure being compressed from the back. Some areas get tucked in, and other areas are made to look like they're projecting out in comparison. The chin was squeezed into existence just like that. But hold on, the really interesting part is still to come. What happens if we follow this logic through? If the chin is truly just a byproduct, an incidental result of facial deformation, then it might not bear any unique, irreplaceable, independent function at all. This is incredibly common in biology. Many features are just carried along for the ride. It is like building a house. You might not have planned for an attic, but once the roof structure is in place, that space naturally appears. You think every part of your body has a special mission. The reality is, many parts might just be relics that were incidentally left behind. And that shifts the question too. If it wasn't about designing a chin, what exactly was evolution doing? This forces us to rethink what evolution actually does. The way natural selection works is a lot like a programmer who can't see the forest for the trees. It only solves the most pressing, localized problems and rarely does any global optimization. When it makes an adjustment in one place, it can inadvertently cause several unexpected outcomes. Some of these outcomes are useful, some are useless, and some are neither good nor bad. And these side effects, as long as they don't harm the chance of survival, can all be preserved. So why would evolution leave behind something that seems so useless? The answer is, because it is not in the way. So, why did the modern human face undergo such a dramatic and rapid transformation? There were a few main driving forces. Our brain capacity was expanding, requiring more space inside the skull. At the same time, we learned to use fire and started eating cooked food, making our meals much softer. We no longer needed to spend hours each day gnawing on tough things with our teeth, like our ancestors did. The demand for heavy chewing suddenly plummeted. Just imagine one person chewing on roots and nuts every day, and another person drinking smoothies. Their facial bone development would be completely different. The shrinking of our chewing muscles directly triggered a reorganization of the entire facial structure. In this process of the face getting flatter and smaller, multiple forces were pulling it in different directions at once. The upper part, the nose and upper jaw, retracted backward. The attachment points for the chewing muscles shifted. Not a single one of these factors was directly aimed at creating a chin, but their combined effect altered the stress and shape of the entire lower jaw. Eventually, at the very bottom of the face, a forward projecting area formed, our chin. So, evolution and lifestyle, in pursuit of other goals, accidentally left this mark behind. It is not there because it was important, but because it just happened to be the spot that got left behind. This is why modern scientists are increasingly suspicious of those single-function explanations, because they easily oversimplify a complex biological problem. Saying, the chin is for fighting or it is for attracting a mate, is just too neat and tidy. Some once said, the chin is a support structure for a man's beard. Others said it is for resisting an opponent's punch. Someone even proposed that the chin helps us breathe better during long-distance running. These stories all sound charming, but they fall apart under scrutiny. For example, women also have prominent chins, yet they don't have nearly as many beards. And if the chin was for taking a punch, we should probably see a much higher rate of broken chins throughout history. So you see, functional explanations, while satisfying, often collapse the moment you poke them. Most structures in the body are not shaped by a single gene or a single force. They are the product of multiple factors interwoven over vast stretches of time. A feature may have no single, pure, and unique meaning at all. If the real answer isn't one simple reason, then how are we supposed to understand it? Maybe we need a new metaphor. The body isn't a precise blueprint drafted by a designer and then meticulously constructed. It is more like a jigsaw puzzle that is constantly being broken apart and put back together. Every part has to compromise and coordinate with every other part. If the brain gets bigger, the face has to make room. If the chewing muscles shrink, the structural stress on the bones has to be redistributed. The whole system, through this constant compromise and adjustment, eventually reaches a relatively stable state. It is like renovating an old house, not drawing a new one on a blank sheet of paper. The existence of the chin is like a gentle reminder. It is telling us not to be too taken in by the myth of evolutionary perfection. We humans are not some exquisitely polished final product. We are just a transitional form in an evolutionary history, and our bodies are still slowly changing. What seems perfectly reasonable today might not have even existed tens or hundreds of thousands of years ago. And by the same token, who can say what it will become in the future? But hold on. The story isn't over yet, because we haven't talked about why we're so obsessed with studying it in the first place. We spend so much energy researching a chin that might be meaningless, and that fact in itself is worth pondering. The truth is, what we're really trying to study might not just be this lump of bone. We're trying to use it to answer a much bigger question. Why are we humans the way we are? Humans always want to explain themselves, whether it is the body or the mind. And the chin. This bony structure sitting in the most conspicuous spot on the face has become a perfect entry point for that research. By interrogating it, we're interrogating our own origins. Why do we always want to know why we look the way we? It is probably a curiosity deeply embedded in our genes. And don't forget, today, physical appearance is far more than just a biological trait. It is becoming a part of our identity and our personality. The shape of the chin, to a large extent, defines the contour of the lower half of your face. A prominent chin looks more mature and resolute. A receding chin makes a person look gentler, even a bit childlike. You open your phone, and the very first filter on any selfie app adjusts your face shape. Terms like V-shaped face or small chin have become the aesthetic ideal for countless people. In Hollywood movies, the superhero's chin is always broad and square, signaling power and determination. Meanwhile, the villain in an animated film often has a chin that is pointy or crooked. We may have judged a person by their chin within the first second of meeting them. That judgment might not be accurate, but it happens nonetheless. You might not realize it, but a lot of people change their hairstyle while ignoring that the shape of their face itself has a much bigger impact on their overall look. When something becomes this visible and this socially significant, we can't help but start attaching all sorts of stories and meanings to it. We begin to overinterpret, claiming this chin shape means good fortune and that one means a difficult life. Or we stubbornly believe that a perfect chin must be proof of some kind of superior genetic makeup. This habit of thinking makes it easy for us to overlook the complex and accidental origins that lie behind it. You see, what might have started as a simple structural byproduct has now been loaded by us with so much cultural, aesthetic, and even fatalistic weight. Sometimes, meaning is something we really do just slap on after the fact. So, what about the future? If we project our gaze thousands or even tens of thousands of years ahead, will we humans still keep this signature chin? It depends on the future environment and how we choose to live. If our food becomes ever more processed and requires no forceful chewing at all, the entire lower jaw could further shrink and degenerate. Maybe future humans will migrate to other planets, where different gravity will affect bone development differently. Maybe we won't need to chew at all, receiving all nutrition through liquids or even injections. In that world, the lower jaw might become a slender, almost invisible structure. The chin could quietly, peacefully disappear from the human face. Or, conversely, as gene editing technology becomes widespread, parents might be able to pick their child's features like ordering from a menu. "Give me a chin like Brad Pitt's" could become a perfectly normal thing to say. By then, the chin will no longer be a product of evolution, but a product of aesthetics. So, will the human face, thousands of years from now, still look like it does today? A lot of people have the illusion that human evolution has reached its endpoint. that the way we look now is the final version. But the truth is, evolution has never stopped. It has just been happening at a slow pace that is hard for us to perceive. In the past, natural selection was the main driving force. But now, technology and culture have become even more powerful drivers, changing the way we interact with our environment. We think evolution has ended, but it is actually happening right under our noses. We just can't see the slow motion replay, just as our faces went from protruding to flat over millions of years. The changes of the future are already underway. So, you see, a tiny chin ultimately points to a profound truth about ourselves. It is gently reminding us, your body is not a perfect blueprint. It is more like a living, layered history book, recording everything. What our ancestors ate, how our brains grew, how our faces transformed, all of those epic changes. To understand the chin is, in fact, to understand the entire story of where we came from. And now, let's return to that initial question that no one ever really thinks about. At first, I thought the question was, what is the chin for? But now I realize the real question is our body designed, or is it just cobbled together? This shift in perspective instantly redefines the whole. Our body isn't a perfect blueprint. It is a silent history book. The eyes, the nose, the mouth, even a seemingly useless appendix are all pages recording stories of the past. And the chin is simply one of the most visible of those pages. It wasn't designed for a perfect future, but is a testament to all the compromises and adjustments of the past. The question is, are we willing to accept this imperfect version of ourselves? So, if our bodies aren't precise, perfect machines, then how many other features, just like the chin, are simply coincidences unintentionally left behind by our evolutionary history? Maybe you can touch your own chin right now, or look at the people around you. The next time you look in the mirror, you might find that some details you once overlooked suddenly have a whole new story to tell. The answer might just be hiding right there on each of our own faces.